Hi, I'm Tara Palmeri. Welcome back. I was just asked to go on MSNBC on Katy Tur's show to weigh in on the latest in the Epstein development. The idea that the Department of Justice, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, is going to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell to see what she knows. And there are people online who keep suggesting that Ghislaine Maxwell should be free, that it's unfair that Ghislaine is the only person who has been prosecuted and indicted because she's a woman and that there's sexism involved. And that may be true. And John should be prosecuted because this was not just Epstein and Ghislaine. And this is based on the victims, and we have to believe the women. But I just got so angry on the show at the suggestion that Ghislaine Maxwell does not deserve justice. She was so crucial in this sex trafficking operation. Without her, Jeffrey Epstein was no one. And I really go into it in the episode and why she doesn't deserve a plea deal or a bargain or immunity or really anything. And you can hear that on the show. It's just that people forget how she lured the children in, how they trusted her, a posh lady who, like Virginia Roberts used to describe her as like a Mary Poppins type. She lured those kids in. She found them around the malls, and she found them at the she found them at the movie theater. She found them where kids hung out, and she lured them in with her poshness, with her elegance, with her grace, with her assets, with her education, with the gifts that she was given. Take a listen here.
So, Tara, Donald Trump's playbook there, I mean, I laid it out. I think it's also interesting that he's now once again calling Barack Obama Barack Hussein Obama, which is signaling something specific. It doesn't seem to be working, though, in the same way that it's worked in the past. Or you tell me, I mean, you're living more in the fever swamps than I am right now. Is it working? Are people not talking about Trump's links to Epstein or not demanding transparency for Epstein at the same furious rate they were before because Donald Trump is trying to link it to the Democrats?
I think it has cooled down a little bit, but I think there's still a desire for more information. It's just a matter of right and wrong. The politicization of it, this transcends politics. This is a story where people want to know what happened. It feels like a cover up. You can't say, don't look here. When you say that, it only adds more interest, even though it doesn't have to be a broad conspiracy. I mean, this is a man who was a financier, who was a math teacher before that, and managed to get some of the most powerful people in the world to give them his money to the point where he made over $1 billion by trafficking young girls. It doesn't even need a conspiracy angle. It's a horrible story, and people want to know the full story. And I think that's a completely legitimate thing. And the fact that they're trying to say there's nothing to see here, it doesn't matter, case closed, it just doesn't ring true and to anyone. And it's going to be hard to put this one out, to put this fire out. You can't really release the pressure valve. The latest, if Ghislaine has something to say, we'd like to hear from her. That's what the Deputy Director of the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, said. We don't know what that conversation's going to be, Katie. We don't know how that's going to go. We don't know even if they're going to strike a deal where it commutes her sentence.
Tom Winter was on the show a little bit earlier, and he was saying if she had something to proffer for a plea deal, she would have done so during the trial. And also, if they really were trying to shed more light on the situation, they would be going to the victims to re-interview them, not necessarily to Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm trying to figure out, Tara, is Ghislaine Maxwell now a victim in the eyes of the MAGA world? Is she taking the fall for powerful men? What figure is she now?
I hate when I hear that. People are saying, Ghislaine's a victim. She's not a victim. The only way for him to have successfully created one of the largest sex trafficking operations in our country was through women. He needed her. He needed a posh, elegant, sophisticated woman to lure young girls in. And he also needed her Rolodex, frankly. He was just some guy from Coney Island who was a little rough around the edges. He taught at Dalton. She was posh. Her father owned the New York Daily News, the Daily Mirror. She was friends with Prince Andrew. She opened the doors for him, and she also groomed the girls for him. So any suggestion that she is a victim because she's the only only person who's prosecuted is insane. And also, I believe that Ghislaine Maxwell is very shrewd, and she definitely has something up her sleeve. And I think she probably does have more information, but they're using it. Her case is open on appeal right now. It's probably get thrown out before the Supreme Court, but it's hard for me to believe that she thinks she will serve a 20-year sentence.
Well, Tara, in fairness, the New York Times over the weekend reported on one victim's account and her reporting to the FBI about seeing Donald Trump in Mr. Epstein's office, where Mr. Epstein says, quote, "She's not here for you," end quote. And her younger sister, who So tell me how you see this move or tell me what you think is going on at a broader level.
I agree with the senator that they should be talking to the victims. The victims also have case files that they filed, their civil suits. A lot of them have their own lists of men that they've been trafficked to. But we live in a culture where we don't believe women, right? So you could easily find out more about Johns. There are tons of leads. These women are sitting on troves and troves of evidence that they are more willing to give up than Ghislaine Maxwell. In a lot of cases, they signed NDAs with some of these men, but I would think that in a criminal investigation that would be thrown out the door. There are so many directions this case can go in. It's a decision of whether you want to go there. It seems like they want to sweep it under the rug. And also, they can go and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell and then say, yeah, her information is incredible. She's a criminal after all, right? Can we really believe her? That's what they can say. Or they can have a private conversation with her and hatch some sort of deal so that she doesn't serve all 20 years in prison. I've personally believed that Ghislaine never thought she would serve all 20 years. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein thought he would serve time in 2019 after he only had to spend time in a county jail the first time around. These people believed they were above the law. They acted without impunity. They paraded young girls around and treated them like they dehumanized them. These are not normal people. And so I could see this going so many different ways. I'd like to see the record of the conversation that Todd Blanche has with Ghislaine Maxwell so that we know what kind of conversation they're having. I mean, they could hatch a deal. She could, maybe say the right thing, wink, wink, nod, nod. She gets a pardon at the end of this. Ghislaine Maxwell is holding on to her secrets because that was her power. That is the thing that she's holding on to. Otherwise, she would have done a plea deal.
Tara, what is the broader picture? Everyone seems to be following, I feel like we're cats, right? Following the laser pointer. But to Claire's point about the young girls who were victims, about the lawyers who represented them, you're reporting, Julie Brown's reporting, there is a way to get at the bigger picture if bipartisan members of the House and Senate wanted to. What would that look like?
I think that they would have to have the Epstein victims testify. I think that they would actually, I know it's difficult. Jane Does don't always want to come forward. That's why they call themselves Jane Doe. It takes a lot of courage to come forward against some of the most powerful people in the world. I mean, that was what made Virginia Roberts Giuffre such a singular force. For so long, she kept talking and telling people and trying to get attention for what she went through. And no one paid attention until they finally did, right? When Epstein was arrested in 2019. But she was telling people her story and they just kept ignoring her. I mean, I think we need like a change of culture. We'd have to really spend time actually looking into the Johns in the case. There would need to be an entire, I don't know if you want to do a special counsel, or you would have an entire division within the Department of Justice that focused exclusively on prosecuting these Johns. And it would take a lot of money and time, frankly, because these are very powerful people who will hire the best defense attorneys in the world. But if you really care about making this right after all of these years, about proving that this country is not a two-tiered justice system, then that's what you have to do. And you can't brush this under the rug and say there were no third-party conspirators involved. Then why was there a non-prosecution agreement for third-party conspirators? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell in prison? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And the way that Pam Bondi has long talked about the race, like the race of the case, she just doesn't understand it, the heart of it. She doesn't understand what the victims have gone through. She doesn't understand why they feel re-victimized by what the government is doing now. Even the fact that she lied and said there was an Epstein list, when everyone who's actually covered the story knows that there was no list. The victims have lists. They have lists of the men that they were trafficked to. Why don't you ask them for that?
Well, and Tara, just speak about the delta between, because this is where Trump seems to have stepped in it politically. He picked people to run the FBI who were steeped in the conspiracy side of this. They know what the base wants, and it's been amplified by Joe Rogan, and who said, they said there were tapes, they said there were files, they said there was video. But you can see from the outside where the rupture took place between Patel and Bongino on one side, and Patel, and Bondi, who wasn't even fluent really in the right-wing conspiracy, because to your point, down the rabbit hole, they don't talk about a single list. They're pieces of evidence, they're flight logs, and I think Trump does appear in some of the flight logs, and there are contacts and things like that. But just talk about how they've lost credibility in terms of how the MAGA base talks about what's been suppressed.
I mean, there are probably thousands and thousands of files. I mean, you can go to the FBI vault right now, the website, and look at the Epstein files, and it's completely blacked out. And there's really not a lot to see there. So that would be a first step, is to actually remove all the redactions and show people what's going on there. Get more of the flight logs. Really, they didn't even really quite understand what happened in the first case. The police, they raided his house in 2004, and they took surveillance out. They took a lot of video footage. They took a lot of that. I mean, that's all relevant information right now if you were truly building a case. And I spoke to a victim, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who went to the FBI with Stan Pottinger, who was her lawyer at the time. They're both deceased now. But, she was asked to try to identify a body underneath a man, and to see if it was hers. And she said, no, that's not me. That's not my body. But the fact that she was asked to do that, it just shows you that they have material. And I've been told by law enforcement sources all along that, yeah, we have videos, we have footage. The girls knew that they were using compromise essentially against these men, that there was a lot of footage, that there was video, that they were not moving in secret around. That was not the point of the operation. It was a blackmail operation. Thanks for listening to the Tara Palmeri Show. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abinate, my booker, Jane Fusco, and my team of researchers, Abby Baker and Luke Radel, and my social media manager, Sarah Carney. If you like this show, please follow it, subscribe, leave a written review. I'd really appreciate that, and share it with your friends. You can get more of my independent reporting by going to tarapalmeri.com and signing up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. It'll come straight to your inbox, and if you become a paid subscriber, it's a way to support my independent journalism. I'll be back again soon.